Hey, it's Taylor, and I'm back with some nerds. Nah, but I'm about to do my very first story time, and not the story time that I talked about in the last mukbang that I had. This video is a true story time, and I don't even know what to title it, but I guess let me tell y'all a story about how the tables turn. So, yeah, it's me featuring Halloween candy. So look, I guess our story really begins in middle school. So look, don't think this is some little kid story. This is just the backstory. So look, all started in middle school. Picture me. If you know me, you can picture me. A fat little girl in middle school who was insecure, who had a bunch of dudes trying to talk to her, but wanted to talk to her in secret because they didn't want to be talking to a fat girl, but all really liked me. Crazy. But imagine her going through middle school, elementary school, all of that, dealing with that type of hate, right? And then here comes this boy. Now, one of my friends at the time, she hooked me up with him. Okay. Me and him used to take the bus together, the school bus to school, every day. And I always thought like he was flirting with me or something. Like I always was like, oh, I think he liked me. Like, you know, somebody just give you that look and you're like, oh, he liked me. But I didn't want to think too much of myself because he was a really cute boy. Like, you know, when that new boy come to school and everybody like, oh shit, he's bomb. He was that boy. So I didn't want to get it pumped in my head like, oh, the new boy liked me. So I kept it to myself, right? So then he ended up dating my friend. That was fine, whatever. She didn't like him. She broke up with him. So all of this time is going by. We talk on the bus, whatever. Cool, small conversation. And then he started giving me hugs. So we would see each other, of course, on the bus on the way to school. And then at school, we would go to our classes. We didn't have the same classes because he was a year younger than me. We go to our classes, come out, and walk through the hall to the next class. And he constantly would give me a hug every time he seen me. So I'd be like, oh, hey, Marcus. I'm going to call him Marcus. Hey, Marcus, whatever. He's like, oh, hey, Taylor. Oh, let me give you a hug. And he kept giving me hugs. So I'm like, okay, nigga looking at me weird. He giving me hugs. Something's up. So time keep going by. Same weird signs. And then we getting off the school bus one day to go to school. Marcus and another boy we knew was walking ahead of me. So bus is right here. We walking from off the bus. Marcus and the boy are like right here. I'm probably like right here. So I'm not too far behind them. But mind you, we're walking. We're walking to school, like to the school, whatever. So I hear Marcus ask, hey, bro, like, what you think about Taylor? Like, you think she cute? Like, you think, like you think I should talk to her? And the boy was like, oh, nah, bro, I wouldn't do that. That's not a good move. And Marcus had responded and was like, oh, okay, like, well, whatever. I think she cute. I think I'm gonna talk to her. So in my mind, I'm like, fuck that nigga who, mind you, the dude who said that about me to this day is in my DMs trying to fuck with me. Anyway, that was not the point. But I'm geek, like, oh my God, Marcus really want to fuck with me. I'm excited. So now when he hugging me, I'm hugging him back a little tighter. I'm like, oh, hey, So my friend, she had told me, like, I know you like him or whatever, and I don't care because I didn't really like him anyway. So I'm gonna give him to you. Now, mind you, as a grown-up now, that shit sounded backwards, but like, like I would never just take a nigga that my friend had. But she was like, I'm gonna give him to you. So I don't know what she said to him, but she was like, oh, Taylor like you, this and that. But whatever she said to him, he came up to me the next day and was like, hey, so Susie told me you liked me or whatever, so let's be together. So I'm like, okay. So from that point on, that was my nigga, right? My nigga, me and Marcus. So I'm feeling like that bitch because I got the cutest nigga in the school. And he didn't care about, he thought I was like so pretty. He never said anything bad about me. He never was afraid to hold my hand, to kiss me around people, nothing. And mind you, like I said, I'm so used to people trying to talk to me in secret, trying to say like, oh, you know, we could be together, we could talk, but just on the phone, like don't hug me at school and shit like that. So I'm just used to people treating me all wrong. Oh, sorry. These got my mouth really salivating. But anyway, I'm used to people being like, oh, let's not be a couple in public. So when he came along, it was just like, I was just sprung. Like, damn, this boy really owned me. Da, 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 da. So, whatever. We're dating. We're together, right? I'm happy. I'm like so into him. He's so into me. He lived near me. So we was always seeing each other. He was always coming by my house. And we would like hang out outside and stuff on the weekend. He walked me home every day from the bus stop. Like, we was a couple. And everybody knew we was a couple. Then shit started turning completely left. So time has gone by. And, you know, like I said, he's a little popular dude at the school. And I went to school with a lot of hoes. Like, with a lot of fast-ass little girls. So, you know, he was trying to fuck. And I wasn't with that. And it was girls that was sucking dick in the hallways after school and doing all types of wild shit. And I wasn't with that. And all his friends was the ones that was receiving the head. So he thinking like, oh, I got a girlfriend. Like, she should be with it. Nigga, I was not with none of that. So, you know, he asked me like, you know, let's have sex. Da, 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 da. Mind you, I'm in middle school. So I'm like, no. I'm not doing that. But he never pressed me. He never forced me. And he never like kept asking me. He asked me maybe like 1 or 2 times. And every time I said no, it was like, okay, that's fine. That was that. So he learned to stop asking me. So then after that is when people started telling me stuff. Like, oh, did you know Marcus was hanging out with, let's call him Brandon. Marcus was hanging out with Brandon, and, you know, Brandon was getting his thing sucked in the hallway the other day after school, and, you know, you should try to check on him and make sure he ain't into none of that. Now, mind you, I'm hearing all of this shit in middle school. I gotta hear that my boyfriend is possibly cheating on me. So I'm like trying not to be insecure or whatever. And he's like, oh no, babe, I'm not doing none of that. Woo, woo, woo. So I let it go, right? Completely let it go. Till one day I was in class. Y'all, now mind you, me and him was together for like really the whole year. Like the whole year we was together. So I'm in class one day, and one of my homegirls at the time, you know, she was like, I gotta tell you something. So I'm sitting right here in class. This is why class is going. She like a row behind me. She like, I gotta tell you something, man. Like, I don't know how to tell you. She's saying this, and I'm turning around. I'm like, what? Like, I gotta tell you something. Huh? Like, what you need to tell me? What? And teacher like, y'all need to pay attention. Da, 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 da. So now I'm trying to figure out what this bitch gotta tell me, and I'm getting in trouble trying to hear like, what's up? She like, I'm gonna write you a note. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting on this note. And I keep looking back at her, and she looking stupid. Like the whole time she looking like this. So I'm like, bitch, what? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you, right? So now, mind you, this was a girl who I had given advice to, who I had like really been there for when everybody else at school was like talking about her and everything, because she was one of the girls that was, you know, that nobody really liked or whatever. So I was always there for her. So she slid me this letter, y'all. I read the letter. She like, I'm so sorry, you know. Okay. I did not mean to say his name. I'm gonna have to bleep that out. I sucked Marcus's thing. So I'm like, bitch. So I turn around. I'm like, what? So she like, I'm so sorry. She mouthed I'm sorry. Y'all, class was not even over. Why did I pack all my shit up and just walk straight out? My heart was like broken into like 1,000 pieces. Y'all, I walked away. I started crying. Like, I was just completely pissed off, right? Pissed off. So I walk outside to the court, to the quad, whatever. The bell ring. It's been like 10 minutes, 15 minutes since I walked out of class. And it's time to go home because that was my last period. So I'm walking to the bus. I see this bitch. She like, Taylor, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. Y'all, why did I sock this girl in her stomach? Just a cold one. Just pow. Like, I just directly talked to her. All I seen was, ah. And everybody was like, oh my God. And I calmly walked to the bus. Bitch, don't say 2 words to me. Like, you feel me? Don't say nothing to me, dog. Nothing. So I was pissed off. So I get on the bus. I'm crying. And mind you, either he got kicked out around that time or he got suspended or something had happened. But he wasn't at school when I found out this information. So maybe he just didn't come to school that day. I don't remember. But I'm on the bus. My dramatic ass was crying. And I'm writing a letter. I'm like, it's over, Marcus. I don't want to be with you no more. Woo told me she sucked your I can't believe you would do me like this and all of this shit. So when he came onto the bus, he rode up there on his skateboard and he was waiting for me like, hey, babe, to walk me home. I looked at that nigga with tears in my eyes, balled up the letter and threw it at that nigga and walked home. So then my friend at the time, she was like, oh, girl, you should have seen him. He came over to whatever. We all used to hang out together at that time because all of us lived in the same neighborhood. So either we go to one person's house or be in the neighborhood or whatever. So I guess he was by her house. And she said, you should have seen him walking home. Like, he was crying and all of this shit, right? So, stupid me, right? I ended up taking him back. Don't even remember how, but I took him back. So now we together again. Shit's still cool. Then I find out somebody that was real close to me fucked him in the alley. So yeah. And this girl and me was very, very, very close. And she fucked him in the alley. So when I tell y'all I experienced heartbreak with that person at a very young age, I really did. Like, I was crying about shit a kid my age should not be going through, like, at all. 13, 14-year-old, 12, 13, 14, really, because I was messing with him for years. Really crying about somebody that was really cheating, like, on me. Like, truly cheating. So, it was just really sad. So, anyway, me and him, we finally ended it before I went to high school. Because he ended up moving far away. So, he moved real, real far. So, that was just over with. So, fast forward now, I'm in high school. I ended up getting another boyfriend who I'm still with right now. My baby. But anyway, so look, me and him, we was going through a rough patch or whatever. So, we ended up breaking up for like a year. So, I was like, what? In the 10th grade, I'll say, when me and him had broke up, like a big breakup. And I was just real sad and depressed, right? So I was crying. I was super sad, super depressed over this breakup. And, excuse me, Marcus had hit me up on like Facebook or something. So he like, oh, I'm back in I'm dropping fucking nerds everywhere. He like, I'm back in the city, you know, where you at? I'm trying to see you. All of this stuff. So I'm like, okay, like, whatever, come see me. So he pulled up on me. And, mind you, I think this was around, like, summertime. Marcus has never forgot my birthday. No matter if we was together or not, he's always made a point to tell me happy birthday or bring me a gift. So my birthday come around, he pull up on me with like some shade, like some cute, I have glasses and some chocolate and stuff. And was like, oh, happy birthday, how you been? Da, 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 da. So, you know, I just thought it was sweet because we ain't talked in all these years and you still remember it was my birthday. So right there, me and him just like instantly connected and started talking again. But it wasn't nothing serious because I had told him I'm definitely still in love with my ex and I'm not trying to go there with you. You know, he kept trying to tell me like, you know, like I'm not the same person I was. I was young and I really want to do you right because I really did always love you and all of this stuff. But I honestly just wasn't trying to hear it because, like I told him, I wasn't mad at him no more. But that time has passed. So, long story short, he ended up being like my rebound person. But he knew that. And I had told him throughout that whole situation, like, look, I don't want a relationship. We are friends and I'm confiding in you. So I'm literally talking to him, telling him about my ex at the time. Like, I'm like, look, you know, we broke up because of this reason, that reason. I'm crying to him, telling him, he giving me advice. We talking, we hanging out. And then he hits me with, boom, I got an apartment. I'm back out here and I got my own apartment and I live around the corner. So I'm like, oh, for real? Da, 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 da. So this is when I was working at Vons. So it started off like this. He would pull up on me, come talk to me. And then it went from that to, oh, let me take you to work. Because I worked a couple blocks away from my house. Oh, let me take you to work today. All right, cool. Then he picked me up from work. And then he was taking me home from work. And then, you know, it just became like a regular thing. So me and him just was getting real, real close. But the whole time, I seriously meant what I said. I did not want a relationship with him. I just wanted to be friends. And I just needed somebody to talk to and confide in. And it was comforting, too, because, of course, this is the person that I loved at one point in time. But it was just comfortable. So, anyway, time go on. And now, he's like, oh, I would go to his apartment and chill and stuff. We would watch movies. He had a roommate. They would smoke. His roommate girlfriend ended up being a girl that went to middle school with us, which was crazy. And me and her was always cool. So me and her was talking and hanging out. So we were just all chilling all the time. So it just was like super cool. It was like he was my boyfriend with no title. Even though we never did relationship stuff. Like, okay, my bad, y'all. My phone has stopped recording. But like I was saying, in all of that time of me hanging out with him and stuff, or even throughout the years, I had never slept with him, never sucked his thing, never, none of that. Like, none of that ever happened between us, like, ever. So anyway, so it went from coming to my house to chill, taking me to work, picking me up from work, to, oh, spend the night. So I'm like, look, if I spend a night with you, I'm not sleeping with you, none of that, because I'm not in the headspace for that. My mind is on a whole nother nigga. Like, hope you know that. He's like, Taylor, I'm gonna respect you. You know that. Da, 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 da. So I went over there and I spent the night. And mind you, when I spent the night, he did not lay a hand on me. Like, not once. And I would always respect him for that. And really cherish that, because any other person is gonna try to touch on you, feel on you, despite what you said, what boundaries you laid down. But he respected it completely. All we did was sleep in the same bed. I promise y'all. I remember there was a night I laid in his boy bed and cried on his chest about my ex. And he laid there and really listened to me. Like, truly listened to me. But mind you, this person was probably like, I won't say he was my first love, because I felt a love that was deeper than that love. So I feel like that person I experienced the true love with is my first love. But I guess he's my first, like, really feeling. I guess maybe I don't want to call him my first love, because in my mind, I feel like I know who my first love is, because it was a complete different feeling from what I felt with him. I feel like that was like puppy love. But whatever, that I'll call it my first puppy love. He was my first puppy love. But at the time, he was my everything. So he like truly broke my heart. So it's like once I got over him, I was over it Because I imagine me, 12, 13-year-old girl, crying every day, every night, depressed, really crying, embarrassed. Everybody's telling me my boyfriend is sleeping with this person, that person, and really just like embarrassed, crying. My feelings just completely hurt. First person that really, like, I won't say he valued me, because if he did, then that wouldn't be happening. But first person who wasn't ashamed of me, all of that, you know, really hurt my feelings. So anyway, let's fast forward back to me sleeping at his house. So now I'm spending the night. So now I'm spending the night at his house like every other night. I'm there, waking up, got my work clothes there, going to work, all of that. And it's still what it is. We just friends. That's it. We just friends. But I could tell he was starting to want more. You know, like he would start to say stuff like, oh, you know, I can't wait until like we really get our place and make it our place. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Our place? What do you mean? And he like, you know, like, I just can't wait till we get everything together. Now, mind you, we never had talked about living together, none of that. So I'm confused. So he just was like dropping little bombs like that throughout this time. And this was going on for like 2-3 months. So I'm like, okay. Then, you know, he was like always trying to just like cuddle and like lay with me. And I'm like I don't mind cuddling. It never went no further than that. But it was just like he was trying to be like too affectionate. And I'm just like, nigga, this is not that. It's just not that. So one night I was at his house. I wasn't spending the night. I just came over. I'm laying in the bed. He laying there. And we just talking. And he's like, what are we? Y'all, why did my goofy ass start dying laughing? I started. Y'all, I am pissed. My camera ran out of space. So it just stopped recording. Ugh. Okay. So, like I was saying, the nigga asked me, what were we? So I started laughing and he got mad at me. And I had to control myself a little bit. And I was like, we're friends. And he's like, but I don't want to be friends. And literally, I'm like, it was like a movie. I'm laying there looking in the air like, so I guess I'm not spending a night tonight. So I hop up. I start putting my shoes on. I'm like, well, I guess I'm finna go home then. And I'm thinking I'm finna have to walk home in the middle of the night by myself. He put on his jacket. He like, okay, it's cool. I'll take you. Da, 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 da. And we was walking and it was just like a super awkward silence. Like nothing was said, nothing. And, you know, when he took me there, I gave him a hug. I'm like, okay, bye. See you later. And he didn't really say anything back. And later on, it sounds crazy, but the girl who he had messed around with, one of the girls he had messed around with who was close to me and her ended up reconnecting years down the line. Me and her ended up reconnecting, being back cool, because she told me her own story with him and everything like that. That's a whole different story. But we and her got back cool, right? Oh, I forgot a whole nother part. I forgot to tell y'all that in the midst of the 2-3 months we was together, well, not together, but was in our little thing, he asked me to move in with him. And I was like, no, I'm good. You know, like it just was little shit like that. That was like, I knew he was going to either just think we were in a relationship or bring it up. So I knew that moment, the what worry was coming, but excuse me, I just did not handle it well. So all this time go by and I hadn't talked to him, no nothing. Like time goes super by. Like we don't speak. We stopped talking to each other, everything like that. He may have hit me up. Like I had ended up getting back with my boyfriend or whatever. And he had hit me up a little bit throughout that time. But I didn't talk to him because I just knew where Red was going to go on his end. So I didn't really talk to him like that. But he ended up, you know, moving again from what I heard and had a baby and all of this stuff. So good for him. But my friend ended up telling me that while he was talking to me back then, he was talking to her too. And this is why you don't trust these niggas. But I say this is a story of how the tables turn because she told me he was expressing to her about how I hurt his feelings and I broke his heart and I switched up on him for my ex and I picked my ex over him and he was all hurt and shit like that. Well, nigga, I guess you know how it feels now when somebody break your heart and step on it and shit. And I didn't even intentionally do that. It's just funny how the tables turn, how you can cry over somebody and then you don't care about them later on. And next thing you know, they crying over you. It was just completely crazy. But yes, she had told me everything. Like, girl, me and him was talking. He had brought me over that apartment too. He asked me to move in with him. He told me he wanted me to have his baby and this and that and that and this. I'm like, oh, this is why to this day I'm happy I never gave him no I never gave him no type of play. And he was still banging my line, still picking me up, still taking me out, still chilling with me, hanging out with me. I ain't had to do none of that. And the fact that you went to another girl and basically talked about me like I was talking to you about my ex was just crazy of how the line really goes of how people be feeling about people. Like, I had a boyfriend, we broke up, I confided in this person and he confided in that person and she confided in me years later. So I guess the moral of the story is the tables will turn. Know your worth, sis, because if I could have gave in and been like, you know what, it's over in that relationship, I need to let it go. It's somebody right here who want to be with me and let me, give him a solid chance. No, something in my heart told me not to be with that nigga and not to give him a solid chance. So, and that's just one of our go-rounds. Another time before that, that's a whole other story time. I got thousands of stories on that nigga, but that was wild. But yeah, y'all. That is the story time of how the tables turned and how you need to know your worth, sis. And just know that these niggas is cold and you got to stay strong at the end of the day. Know what's best for you. Know where you supposed to be, if that makes sense. Know your place in this world and stand on it. Don't let no niggas from school, life, nothing determine how you feel about yourself. Don't let somebody making you feel pretty and beautiful stay in a stupid ass situation. And also, it lets you know once you move on, people see what they missed out on. That is my story time for the day, folks. It's Tele. Thanks for playing in the Playhouse with me, and let me know if you want any more story times. Bye.